I actually was bartending with some of my high school teachers,
Mm.
that, in the summer. So, but it was great. I would leave for on a busy day with $600 in cash, and I thought to myself, like, wow, if I keep doing this for too long, I'm never going to leave, because where do you go to make this money? But when I think back at my mindset at that age, I was like, I always had this mindset was like, where can I go to get the biggest return on my time? But like at the time, I was never putting it all together. Long story short, end of the seminar, they're like, hey, whoever did great, we're going to offer you a position here in the car industry, in the automobile industry. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm like, how does this work? And I remember talking to my mom, and she was like, Nicole, you just got done with 4 years at an expensive college, and you're going to go
Mhm.
get into the car business. And I was so committed to mortgages that, and I still think, looking back, I do think that you got to get one thing really working well for you, one thing that you've mastered. And then once you get to that point where it has, hopefully you're making a great living, and now you have this ability to say, okay, well, what am I going to do? Am I just going to take my
Mhm.
money, throw it in 401ks in the stock market, or buy real estate? Or, am I going to invest in something is way more tangible, something that I can control?
Right.
I think that, we hit these pivot points in our life where we are forced to make decisions. And I fundamentally feel like the longer you take to make a decision, sometimes the worse off you can be. Kind of sit in this place where you're in turmoil, like, I don't know what I should do. I'm not happy where I am. This isn't working for me.
Did you know there's a technology that's actually an app on your phone that uses sound waves to tell your brain what you want your brain to do? We had a young man that was on a guest on our podcast, the Mike Litton Experience, who had a traumatic brain injury. He was sleeping 3 hours a night. He's using New Calm now and he's sleeping more. Go to newcalm.com, Mike15 promo code. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Nicole Perrone, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So, with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today, and we want to talk about the amazing things you're doing with Cross Country Mortgage. I also want to touch on what you're doing with your podcast, too. But thanks again for being here.
Oh, thanks for joining. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be joining you, Mike. Love your podcast, and excited to share with your listeners.
Appreciate it. So, where were you born?
I was born in New Jersey, in New Brunswick, New Jersey. It's about maybe just about a little less than an hour outside of Manhattan, and
Okay.
that's where I grew up in the beginning of life, and that's where my journey began. Yeah, right in New Jersey, East Coast.
So, what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
Well, I was born in North Jersey. I lived for a short period of time in the North Jersey area. And then I always have to kind of tell this as a part of my story. My parents split when I was 5. And so the really interesting thing about how I grew up was I kind of got to see two different worlds, so to speak, socioeconomically and geographically. And so my mom ended up marrying my stepfather. They're still together to this day, and I got to grow up at the Jersey Shore, in Brielle, New Jersey, which was a really amazing little shore town, kind of river community. Maybe 5,000 people, one elementary school. Everybody knew everyone. The kids kind of rode bikes all around town, one friend to the other's house. And then every other weekend, I would be with my father, who predominantly, for the most of his life, lived in New York, in Brooklyn, and I got to see a completely different world. I remember asking my dad when I was a kid, like, "Dad, why do people write on the buildings out here? Like, what is this?" So I think, I didn't think about this at the time growing up, but now that I look back, I realize how much that experience of kind of seeing two different worlds really helped to diversify me and just get me exposure to different things. My community was so small, everyone was very similar, kind of listened to the same music, wore the same clothes, right? Just, did the same things, surfing, skateboarding, like all the kind of shore activities. And then, you go to New York where it's a completely different style, lingo, attitude. There's a lot of more diversity. And I remember seeing, just the religious segments of people throughout the weekend that I just didn't see in my area. And so I got to learn a lot and become familiar with things. I look back today and I'm like, well, I look at my nephews and my kids and I'm like, I don't know that they see that as much as I got to. So
Mm,
we try to make it a point to show them as much as we can. But it was a cool upbringing. I got to experience kind of the best of both worlds, as I like to call it. And today I do a lot of work in New York and New Jersey. And so it's exciting. I love the city and I love the shore.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
Well, you know what? I think that's interesting. I think I was most inspired by the desire to really make my parents proud.
Mhm.
I don't know that as a kid I had a mentor. I had a lot of examples in my within my family of people that had ambitions and dreams. Everyone was very hardworking. I always saw them kind of like pontificating on like, maybe we should do this or that investment. And so that was predominant way I grew up was in a very entrepreneurial home.
Mhm.
I got to see and experience just what it was like day to day to run a business, what it was like to watch a business overwhelm you a little bit, right? And
Mhm.
become a part of like not just work life, but family life too. And the
Mhm.
conversations we'd have around the dinner table and at breakfast in the morning. And so it's interesting. I think that I do think in hindsight, some of those things influenced me today. When I look back, my mom was in real estate when I was younger, and she jokes around. She's like, you could thank me for being in the mortgage industry because look, I was in real estate. I obviously had the influence on you. And it was funny when I was a kid, I would go with her to the real estate office and stuff. So it's interesting. You don't know what plays little
Mhm.
subliminally in your mind. And then my dad was always in construction, and today I own a construction company. So it's interesting. I jokingly say like either this was kind of like serendipitously just occurred in my life, or there's some way I was set on the path of entrepreneurship and then specific to owning a construction company and running a mortgage business. So it's been fun. I think everyone in my life. I think my big influence was really like what not to do. Right. Like I grew up in a very traditional family where not to say that women didn't work, but men were kind of like the ones that called the shots. And I had this desire intrinsically to be independent. I kind of looked around and was like, I don't want to be like that.
Mhm.
I really I want to have an equal partnership. I want to at least be independent, and have the ability to contribute or support myself. And so that independence was really important to me.
It's interesting. 33 years ago plus now, I started in the mortgage business, and my
Wow.
children grew up in a house in our family home where I ran our mortgage company and I also ran a real estate company. And as they grew up, they saw the not so kind side of the real estate business and the mortgage business, right? Because when the what hit the fan, it landed on my desk, right?
Hmm.
And so growing up, they wanted to do anything but real estate, anything but.
That's interesting.
And what's fascinating is now they're 25 and 26. My son will be 27 in October.
Mm,
And both of them are coming to work with me.
there you go.
And what's fascinating is, and this is one of those things that being in the mortgage business, I don't know, how old are your kids?
8 and 6, and then I have two stepkids that are 18 and 15.
So you're going to have this happen to you where
Sure.
one of these days they're going to come back to you and
Mm,
say, you know what? I had no
mm,
idea how much I learned about credit. I had
mhm.
no idea how much I learned about finances. I had no idea how much you taught me or I learned just from osmosis from being in that house,
Yeah.
because we spend our time solving problems. We spend our time solving issues that people are going through, right?
Sure.
And our children are sponges, Nicole. They hear
Mhm.
all of it. I mean, it's crazy. And
Yeah.
so my children are now counseling other children who weren't raised in that type of an environment, right?
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
literally calling me up going, Dad, we had no idea how much we learned. Okay.
Growing up. Yeah.
And they developed or have now developed an appreciation for what we did while they were growing up.
Mhm.
And both of them, independent of each other, have come to me and they're now coming to work with us.
That's awesome. And
It's
so
amazing.
it's interesting too, because I think that, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think COVID and the work from home world that has evolved through the years, even post COVID, and just the flexibility and remote work in general, and the people adapting to it has changed that kind of component of the influence. It's like every day is bring your kid to work day
Yeah.
because you're always working from home. And the kids are seeing me on podcasts or talking to clients, and you're absolutely right. You don't realize, you start to see like little ways that they're maybe imitating your mannerisms or talking the way that you are. And it's interesting. I think that's actually one of the benefits I think that has come from kind of the work remote scenario, is that kids children get to experience and see and live this like real life almost entrepreneurship through you. I remember as I was practicing for the keynote on the science of luck, I was reading it out loud like over and over again, and I was recording myself. And then at one point I told the kids, I'm like, okay, you guys sit there like you're the audience, and and then when I say something good, like clap and cheer me on. And it's funny, after I did all that practicing, they were like reciting the science of luck keynote speech. Now either they're going to be very lucky when they get older, or maybe they'll be public speakers, one or the other. But it's really cute. I love that. That's so exciting that they're going to be with you on the journey.
Well, it'll have an impact, I promise you, right? It'll impact
Yeah.
them going forward. And it's
Mhm.
crazy. I mean, I never asked my kids to counsel other kids on credit. I never,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Like, none
Sure.
of that kind of thing ever even occurred to me.
Mhm.
But we spend all of our time helping people solve problems, right? We're always helping them to figure this out, figure that out, that kind of thing. And they're listening, man. They're paying attention more than you can possibly imagine. I started working from home right when my son was born. Like literally, they handed him to
Wow.
me in the delivery room, and I got a chill from head to toe because I realized I was violating a promise I had made to myself when I was a young boy. I promised myself when I was a young boy that when I became a dad, I would run my business, not have my business run me.
Mm.
And I would be at all those events. I would be in the stands when he looked up for the basketball game. I would, you know what I'm saying? Like I would
Yeah,
be,
100%.
they would
Mhm.
know that dad was passionate about their success, passionate about being there for them, the whole thing. And
Mm.
so for the 3 days after we had the baby, after we had Michael, I was in the hospital room with my wife. I purchased the bed next to her so that she had a private room, and it was just her and I and the baby, right?
Ah.
And so it was just an option that we chose. But what was interesting was I spent 3 days thinking about how do I spend my day? What am I doing that I can carve out if I move home from the office? Okay. 3 hours a day commuting minimum. Okay, to and from.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden I start looking. I carved out 8 hours a day, Nicole. I'm not
Mhm.
joking. I carved out 8 hours a day and I started, I don't know if you remember AOL and the dial up, the tones and all that.
Sure,
I
yeah.
learned I learned how to use AOL to send my mortgage files. Remember Contour?
Mhm,
I'm
yeah,
dating
yeah.
myself here. I used to use Contour and AOL to send my loan files to the office. Okay.
Mm,
I had a couple of hundred loans in my pipeline. I was busy. Okay. I had a lot going on, but I used courier
that's
services from the escrow right down the street. They sent my hard files. That's back when we used paper, right?
Mhm.
They sent my hard files to the office. And so I'd get this call from the owner of the company and he'd go, okay, you made a lot of money last month and you cashed those checks that I sent you. I know you still work here. I just haven't seen you in months. Well, when I would go in, I'd go in at night, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
I was the top producer by far in the company. And it was always, hey, Mike, you got a minute? Hey, Mike, you got a minute?
Mhm.
Hey, Mike, you
Mhm.
got a minute? Right. So I'd go in at night, right?
Ah.
Me and the janitor
Yeah.
were in there. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And I struck up a relationship with him and I ended up financing a house for him. I'm not joking. It's hilarious, right? But I was literally there when he was there.
That's
And
amazing.
I would get stuff done and it would take 10 minutes to do what I needed to do versus 2 hours. if I was there with everybody.
Yeah,
So
we talk about this all the time. It's work from home. It works for a lot
really,
of people, and there are a lot of interruptions at the office, especially with a producer. Everyone wants to pick their brain and get a quick answer from to save themselves time.
yeah,
Meanwhile, they're wasting your time, and so yeah, I think there's benefit. Obviously the camaraderie, the energy of a team, and all those things that you need to feel it. But do you need to feel it every day? Does it need to be in person? Those are the questions. I think doing some meaningful team building activities, getting together. I think at this point now, for me, a conversation like this
yeah,
it feels no different than sitting down and having coffee with you.
yeah.
Honestly, I've gotten to the point where it's just normal. It's how I do business. It's how I make my first appointment with anybody that I want to follow up with
Mhm.
is just like this. I'm not doing it to your point about saving time. I'm not doing an hour and a half, 2 hour, coffee or
Oh,
a 2.5, 3 hour lunch in the middle of the day. It's just, this is way more efficient.
yeah.
And I think it's a good use of our time. So it's a good point. I mean, for your listeners, I'm sure a lot of them are working remote,
Mhm.
and a lot of them balancing, work life, family, and I think there are some real distinct benefits of being at home and leveraging technology and look at us, like, right, we got to meet each other. We didn't bump into each other. We're in an office together. So it goes to show you these are leverage technology, leverage remote, do it.
It is the tiniest world. I'm not joking. Okay. Every time I turn around, it gets smaller and smaller and
Mhm.
smaller. And the thing about it is, and this is sort of a running theme in this podcast now, that we're talking about leadership, and
Mhm.
we're talking about parenting, which I believe is sacred leadership, right? A big,
Mhm.
big part of what I want people to understand is when they're working from home, it's not just the convenience and the efficiency of working from home. It's also the fact that the kids are listening. They're paying attention. They're sponges, right?
Mm.
And what you're doing, if you're doing it right, will affect them in a positive way. And so that's sort of the point
Absolutely.
that I wanted to make, and I'm glad we made it. So
Sure
in
thing.
high school, did you have a favorite subject?
Yeah, I can't even remember what my favorite subject was in high school. I don't think I was honestly that interested in much from an educational perspective. I was like, hey, let's just get this done, and
Yeah.
I just wanna do what I can do. In elementary school, I remember really liking math. And then I just remember after that kind of, falling in love with some teachers. Like, I would enjoy a subject because I liked the presenter. I liked how they taught. And that became kind of what resonated the most with me in high school and college. So it's, I think education, for me was, it didn't come natural to me. I really had, I was diagnosed with ADD at
Mhm.
a young age. I used to go in elementary school. My mom's like, "What should we do? She can't focus on anything." Was that you too?
No, you
Like,
can't, but you cannot believe. Oh my goodness.
yeah, I used to have to go to the nurse's office in
Yeah.
elementary school to get, like, my dose of Ritalin so that I can calm down and focus because my energy was just so high, and it's interesting because just not too long ago, I thought to myself, "You know what? And I think my son is very similar in that sense where he's got a lot of energy. Like, he'd rather be walking around while you're trying
Mhm.
to teach him something than like sitting down. He's got a lot of movement in him. And so, but I realize now, I'm like, wow, this entrepreneurial life, these multiple businesses, right? It kind of serves exactly that. Like, if I have to focus for too long on something, it's still to this day a little bit difficult. What my strength is to be able to move from talking about a mortgage transaction for, a purchase, and then moving over to sending out an invoice and a proposal on the construction side and checking in on a job and like, and then going to the next thing, the podcast. And I love the diversity. I love kind of like shifting gears.
Mhm.
That's what works for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, needless to say, growing up, I did graduate from Monmouth University. I got a bachelor's in communication. When I got out, I was like, what am I going to do? This was 2007. The world was crashing. There were no jobs. And I saw an ad in the paper. I kind of knew very quickly that, like, hey, I'm not worth what anyone's going to pay me. I knew that in my heart. I'm not starting entry level, 35, $40,000 a year and working my way up one year at a time. I just wanted to go right for it. So I got into commission fields right away. I got into sales right away and learned really quickly, what to do and what not to do. And that was what worked for me. I was doing something different every day, same kind of routines, but but it was all about my output, right? What I
Mhm.
was going to get in return was just, it was about me. I was in control of that, which I really liked. So
So
that's
what was your
that's the early
first
journey.
job? What was your first job and why?
So my first job, well, first job was through high school and college actually was bartending. I used to
Mhm.
bartend at the Tiki Bar in Point Pleasant Beach for anyone that's from the Jersey Shore. It was an amazing job. I actually was bartending with some of my high school teachers that in the summer. So, but it was great. I would leave for on a busy day with $600 in cash, and I thought to myself like, wow, if I keep doing this for too long, I'm never going to leave because where do you go to make this money? But when I think back at my mindset at that age, I was like, I always had this mindset where it's like, where can I go to get the biggest return on my time?
Mhm.
And I always thought it was interesting, like, why would someone work, for 12, 13, whatever the hourly rate was then, an hour and make in a week what I could make in a day? Like,
Mhm.
why aren't people all kind of seeing that it's the same level of work, but you're making significantly more? So I tell like, teenage kids at this point, I'm like, you guys should bartend, you should waitress, it's a great, you learn how to work with customers, you learn how to multitask and manage orders and keep people happy and build rapport. There's a lot of good skills that come from it, and you
Mhm.
make good money. So that's where it started. But when I got out of college, I was like, I need to do something obviously different. I'm not going to bartend. I wanted to get into a career, and I couldn't find anything. It was a really tough job. If you remember 07, 08,
Mhm.
gas prices were through the roof. There were no jobs. So I saw an ad in the paper, in the newspaper. That makes me sound really old. Older than I am. I swear. It was like,
We're
who am
dating
I?
ourselves, Nicole.
Yeah, yeah. The newspaper. And it was like, make $100,000 a year. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So come to this training program. We're going to show you how. I had no idea what the job was for. I had no clue, but I was like, I'm going to go. So
Mhm.
I went. It was like a 3-day sales training program. They hosted it at a car dealership local to my area. But like at the time, I was never putting it all together. Long story short, end of the seminar, they're like, hey, whoever did great, we're going to offer you a position here in the car industry, in the automobile industry. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm like, how does this work? And I remember talking to my mom, and she was like, Nicole, you just got done with 4 years at an expensive college, and you're going to go
Mhm.
get into the car business. And I was like, yeah, I think I am for a little bit. I think I'm going to see how it works. And I have the ability to earn a really good income, and
Yeah.
I'm going to learn sales, and I don't want to go make $30,000 a year. So I did that for about 2 years. I became the internet sales manager there. I was handling everybody that was calling in on cars, doing an internet request on cars, like any inbound traffic coming in, you spoke with me. I got things ready for you. And I was accounting for like a third of the business at the time, which was awesome.
That's
We'd
really
sell,
cool.
yeah, we sell like 150 cars a month, and 30% of them were coming from that online traffic and me booking appointments. And then the
Awesome.
world's crashed, and I was let go, and they were like, well, why don't you sell cars with us? And I said, you know what? I'm making a salary plus commission. I kind of like that. I don't really want to sell cars I knew I didn't want to sell cars for the rest of my life. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's next? And so that's how I ultimately landed in the mortgage business with an amazing mentor in the beginning who was willing to show me the ropes. Started at a small brokerage firm, guy that was very successful, taught me, the things to do and the things not to
Mhm.
do in the business, told me about the cyclicality of it, what to expect. And he gave me the roadmap. He was like, here are the things that you need to do all the time to be successful. If you can just do these things all the time, you're going to do great. And so
Mhm.
I did them. I was like, I took his word for it. I did them. And kind of the rest is history. We're 17 years later now, a long career in the business, a lot of success. And I love it. I actually love it. So it's fun how it just kind of happened by chance too.
Can
But
we go back just a bit?
yeah, of
So
course.
you're selling cars at the dealership, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And somehow you end up meeting this person that becomes a mentor. How did you meet them? How did all that take place?
Yeah, I placed I redid my resume, and I placed my resume with a headhunter. I don't even remember how I ended up connecting with the headhunter, but I was like, I would really love a salary plus commission type structure if it's out there. If not, I'm willing to do commission only. I want to be in sales. I would like to be something, closely related to the car industry, something where I'm working with customers. And so ultimately he ended up connecting with the guy that hired me, and he said, look, I have this one girl, her resume, she really wanted a salary plus commission, I think she's worth meeting with, you should talk to her. So that's where we scheduled the interview. I came into the office. him and I met, and that was it. I was like, I would love to do that. I would love to learn from you. I knew like this was a person that had the time, right? He
Mhm.
was a small company. He had the time to show me the way. I was ready to learn. I mean, I always say like I think that he was like I went through so many people. He's like I never. It took me so many people to hire to find like the right person,
Mhm.
and we ended up doing great together. I was accounting for a half of the business. He was accounting for half of the business, but it was I think one of those things where I saw the opportunity to be in the apprenticeship of somebody that was making, 7 figures plus, and I was, looking at 30, 40, $50,000 a year jobs. I was like, if this guy's willing to teach me, I'm all in. So I'd
Yeah.
sign up for free if I could. And so that was my journey. That's how it started.
So, starting in the mortgage business, what was the single most important thing that you learned that helped to make you successful in the business?
So I think I have like an executor mentality where it's like I get going and then I figure things out a bit as I go. I don't need to learn. I don't need to know every single thing about how to do something before I get started. I think that's a big benefit and I see now later on as I manage people, I could see the people that they need to learn everything before
Yeah.
they get out there. And I'm just like, sales and marketing first. And that was the biggest thing that I focused on in the beginning, period, was networking and relationships and joining organizations, starting
Mhm.
organizations, chambers, BNIs, social media at the time, even like, Facebook was around back then and starting to do more on there and message people and connect. And that was it. I had my offices that I visited. I had my BNI group. I had my chamber. I was at a few events a week, usually trying to meet new people and connect with them and schedule follow-up calls and really just follow the system of building relationships, try to get referrals. And that was the main focus. And my boss always said, look, you're not going to know every transaction. You're not going to know every scenario. He's like, I don't even know every scenario. I've been doing this long. I don't know I learn something new every single day.
Mhm.
So you just need to be great at getting all the information, gathering it all, asking the right questions. And then if they ask you some questions you're not sure, hey, let me double check. I think that could be doable, but let me figure it out. Let me dig in. And he's like, and just come to me and we'll work on it together. And so I was confident and comfortable with that. And I think that, my advice to other people is to do that too. I think that's the best equation because I always say, like, you could have the best process, the best operations, the best systems. You can know everything. You could be the greatest loan officer, CPA, financial advisor, whatever you are. But if you don't have any clients, it really doesn't matter how good you are. And there are a lot of people I know that are great at what they do in this business that just don't do enough sales and marketing. Like I tell them all the time, people would love to know you. They would love to work with you. You're like a guru, but nobody knows who you are. So
Mhm.
what good's all that knowledge if you can't put it to use? So
Can I
sales and
ask you
marketing.
can I ask you something that it's something that I've seen too, and you mentioned it. So I've been doing this, I told you, a long, long time, over 3 decades, and been around the block a few million times, and it just it conti so it continues to astound me how people get into our industry, and I'm talking mortgage, real estate, okay?
Mhm.
They get into our industry and like you said, they feel like they need to know absolutely everything before they ever talk to anybody about anything. And what's interesting to me is there are people in our industry that I know that I am very good friends with that will ask a loan officer who comes to them and tries to seek their business, they'll ask them a question on purpose that they know that they don't have the answer to just to see what their reaction is going to be. Like they're testing their honesty, right?
Wow.
And I want
That's
people
interesting.
under well, I want people to understand this. This is all about being real. This is all
Mm.
about being straight with people.
Mhm.
Okay? If you don't know the answer, tell them for the love of Pete, tell them you don't know the answer,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
However, you'll go figure it out and you'll get back to them, right?
100%. Yep.
Two things. Number one, tell them you don't know, but remember that speed is vital. Okay.
Right.
Step outside, call your mentor, step outside, call somebody who knows the answer, right?
Mhm.
And then
Yep.
step back in and go, you know what? I just got the answer for you. Here it is.
100%. Yeah,
You with me?
I completely agree with that. And I think that even seasoned veterans in the business, you come across, the 2 or 3 VA loans you do a year. We can't keep it all up here. We
Yeah.
have to double check the guidelines. We have to, that's a great, I always say, like, that's a great question. Let me look into that for you and I'll get back to you. I don't even need to say the words, I don't know. Great question. Let me look into it. I'll get back to you. I'll send you an
Yeah.
email. Any other questions that you have, anything else that I could kind of clarify for you, and just be the data intaker. I think that goes the same on any call you do, whether it's a call with a customer, call with a
Yeah.
realtor. You're not the one really like pontificating and talking about everything that you know. It's more the other way around, where you're collecting data and getting information, and then you can provide the
And you're
detail.
being their advocate. Okay.
Sure.
And it
Hmm.
doesn't matter whether it's the customer or it's the realtor or it's the builder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whoever it is that's your potential referral source. I mean, it could be a doctor, it could be somebody that owns a business, right? That's in
Sure.
your networking group. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the thing that I want people to understand is that I'm their advocate. I'm not here to have every single answer to every single question. And having done
Yeah.
it as long as I've done it, you expect me to, right? But it takes
Right.
somebody smarter than me to do that. The thing is, I'm passionate about taking care of them. And
Hmm.
that's the thing that I want them to understand, right?
Sure.
It's not about fake it till you make it. It's not about any of that. It's about, and by the way, it's the fastest way you're going to lose somebody. The
Hmm.
fastest way to win them is to prove to them that you're their advocate, prove to them that you're on their side and you're here to help them try to solve whatever the situation is. And it could be anything, right?
Hmm.
It's just one of
Sure.
those things where you want to be, you want, I just want people to understand it's okay to be real. It's
Yeah.
okay to say to them, like you said, that's a great question. Let me get back to you.
Yeah.
You research
Yeah.
it for us and get back to you.
It's like the quote, start before you're ready.
Yeah.
Because you're never really ready. Like, you could think
Yeah.
of all these areas in your life where that applies, like getting married, having a kid, buying a home, all the big milestones in your life. It's like, were you really ready? Like, I don't know if we're ready yet. Sometimes you wait till you're ready. You never have the kid, you never buy the house, you never get married, whatever it is, you never go to that networking event. I'm not really ready to get into the business. I'm not, I think ultimately that's where people need to be, is starting before you're ready,
Yeah.
believing that you can figure it out each step of the way, understanding the most important metric is truly driving opportunity in business, and then figuring out kind of what the operations and support process looks post that. And when I got into the construction business, it was very much that. I mean, I have a sales and marketing background, but not necessarily a construction background. So it's a little bit of learn as you go with some of those things, like when to charge a tax and when not to charge tax, right? On a sales tax or something like that, something simple. So
Mhm.
I think it's just, have confidence in yourself that you could figure it out, and you'd be surprised what you can accomplish.
Well, and if you don't have the answer's out there.
Yeah.
You
Ask
can go find
ChatGPT.
it. You know
Now
what I
it's
mean?
easier than ever to get the answers
Yeah,
now,
but you can go get it. Is what I'm saying. And it's just, I want
Mhm.
people to understand that. So you got into the mortgage business.
Mm.
You worked for that particular mentor, right? Are you
Yeah.
still working at the same company that you started with 17 years ago?
No, no. There are pros and cons of being with a small company.
Mhm.
And so at the time, my boss at the time was going through personal challenges in his life, and it was like you felt it immediately in the business. And so kind of prompted me to keep my options open. And I had been getting recruited quite a bit. I took a call with Wells Fargo,
Mhm.
and that pretty much changed my destiny. I just had to think about the fact that, when that call started, I was 25 years old when I started with Wells Fargo. Went through like a 3 interview process with them, and they got to know me and understand my business and what I did and my production. And I joined them at a great time because, in addition to getting some of my outside networking business and all these relationships and referrals, I was able to plug into their enterprise and work with their customers as well. And it was a great journey. I had a couple great mentors in the business, had a great team. It was definitely helpful being in the office when I was newer to a company. So I will say that I think it might be tough for newer people today, to not have that, listen to people on the phone, hear what they're doing or how they're saying it, or Yeah, I learned a lot from being in like the pit, like there, So learned, grew with the company, and before I left, I'd achieved some pretty great things. I was running the number one team in the country for Wells out of Manhattan in 2021. We did $2 billion in funded business. There was 53 people on my team, and so that just, I mean, obviously that was an anomaly year, but on a normal year we were doing about $1 billion in business. So Wells had a great platform in the jumbo market for a long time. We dominated. And after the market cycle, a lot changed.
Mm.
So I decided to take a look around and think about my options. And now today I'm here at the number one retail lender in the country, Cross Country Mortgage, and I'm loving it.
So how long were you with Wells Fargo?
13 years.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
real quick, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about something that you all just talked about the other day on your podcast about what's happening with AI and how people are using AI tools to take their business to the next level. We'll be right back. Did you know there's an app that has no side effects that allows you to use sound waves to tell your brain what you want it to do? It's called newcalm.com and it's amazing. It literally uses sound waves. If you want to tell your brain to go to sleep, if you want to tell your brain to recover, if you want to tell your brain to put you in peak physical state, if you want to tell your brain to focus, if you want to tell your brain to take a power nap, you can do all of these things and more with newcalm.com. Go to newcalm.com today, promo code Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go there today. And we're back with Nicole Perrone with Cross Country Mortgage, the billion-dollar mortgage banker. That's so cool. I just love that. I just love that, man.
Thank you.
So talk to us a little bit. So you end up going to Cross Country Mortgage. Number one, why did you go to Cross Country Mortgage, right?
Mhm.
And number two, what's your favorite thing about working there?
Those are great questions. I think that, we hit these pivot points in our life where we are forced to make decisions. And I fundamentally feel like the longer you take to make a decision, sometimes the worse off you can be. Kind of sit in this place where you're in turmoil, like I don't know what I should do. I'm not happy where I am. This isn't working for me. But I know I need to do something, but I'm not doing it. And so I tend to be the kind of person that like, I do really, I'm very thoughtful about my decisions. I play them out term and short term. But after I get that data, I don't sit on it. I decide. And so I got to a point where this cycle was very different than any other cycle. This wasn't just rates got lower. This was like fundamentally every bank in the country completely changed their model when it came to lending, when it came to compensation, when it came to hiring.
Mhm.
That we let go of a lot of people. We pulled out of a bunch of markets. Managers in this business were not able to be rewarded the same way that they were previously. It just wasn't there.
Well, there was a
And so
fundamental shift, right? I mean,
huge.
it was a fundamental, and it wasn't just one bank, it was all of them, it seemed like,
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
basically retreating. Like
Yeah.
they were pulling back massively.
Right.
And
Right.
it's
We've seen
hard when
cycles.
you're doing what you're doing at the pitch that you're doing it, right? At the
Mm,
velocity that you're doing what you're doing. When your company starts doing this,
mhm.
okay, when they start pulling away, it's really difficult to continue to do that, to continue to be in that environment.
Right. 100%. Culture is really important.
Yeah.
And I think for a long time, Wells was the right place to be, and the banks had their distinct benefits, but I don't really think they exist any longer, truthfully. So ultimately, you're getting paid significantly less on the enterprise business. They're not as competitive with rates, products, programs, and you're just you're putting yourself in this little box that you don't need to be in. So just like I always say, like numbers don't lie, right? You
Yeah.
look at statistically, most of the mortgage business is done on the broker and correspondent. 80% of it's done on broker correspondent. If you look at the top 5 banks in the country, maybe they employ 500 loan officers across the country right now, like distributed retail loan officers, not like bank loan officers or centralized, but out on the street making relationships might be 500. So what is that? If you take the top 5 times 5, it's just there's 170 something thousand loan officers. Nobody's working at a bank, really. Nobody's significant. And so the question was really like, okay, I don't want to go to a bank again. Where am I going to go? So I looked at the correspondent side of the business, and after evaluating a couple different lenders, I chose Cross Country. I love their leader. I love their culture. I love the systems that they have in place, the programs they have, the technology, and the entrepreneurial style of working and doing business. You don't just need to kind of conform to their structure. You can pick and choose what your structure is going to be, similar to running a business, which is, I think, really important to me to kind of take that control back. And then obviously, like, the math is simple for me. The more products you have, the more customers you serve. It's that simple. I like being with a company that's not publicly traded. I like being with a company that is not doesn't do anything else. All we do is mortgage. There's no merchant services, assets under management, deposits, CD. There's none of that. It's just that's what we do. We do mortgage. And so when you work for a private company instead of a public one, you recognize, okay, well, the main priority is really the employees and the customers, period. Whereas another at bigger companies that are publicly traded, really at the end of the day, the main person that's important is the shareholders,
Mhm.
and that's every driving decision is made based on that, and sometimes it's not for the good of individual businesses. So I couldn't be more happy with the decision. I couldn't be happier with the experience that I got from Wells and the opportunity that I had. I wish it stayed the same company that it always was,
Mhm.
but change happens. And I think, the lessons I've learned through my time is that you have to pivot past fast when the change does come.
Yeah.
And hosting a podcast, that same kind of fundamental part of, like, getting through life is
Mhm.
is the story I hear from everybody. They had to make a change. How did they make the change? What did they do to do it? How quick did they move after it? How did they end up believing in themselves? And so here I am today, almost 2 years now with cross country. I have a phenomenal team that came with me. I recruit and bring on amazing loan officers. And I have my own personal business here too, with two amazing loan partners and a loan assistant. And so I have the team I need all around me, and we have all the products and the technology to deliver. So
You
it's
know,
great.
I know some of the cross country loan officers, and
Yeah. Okay. Good.
one of them in particular out here that's local.
Scott
The
Evans.
Exactly. The things I was just about to mention his name. The things that Scott does with his team, and I don't know how
Mhm.
familiar you are with him, but
Yeah.
things that he does with his team are are basically out of this world. I mean, in terms of speed, in terms of efficiency, in terms of how they do what they do, is just it's and I'm going to be honest with you, if I was in the mortgage business still, where I was in production the way you guys are,
Hmm.
that is exactly the way I would be doing it,
Hmm.
right? I
Hmm.
mean, it is just like I sat in the first presentation that he did for realtors, because I am one of those too, right?
Hmm.
And I was completely floored. In fact, I'm working on Scott to get him on the podcast. I had him scheduled and he had to reschedule, so we're working on trying to get that reschedule done. But I'm thoroughly impressed with what Cross Country Mortgage is doing to support him and his team. It's just really impressive.
Yeah, he's got a system. I mean, I think that's the other thing, like, is, success leaves clues. So
Yeah.
I look at Scott Evans and Matt Weavers. We have a couple guys that are doing just incredible productions. They have a system down from start to finish on how to generate the opportunity and serve the customer. And there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to
Mhm.
learn from that. And so I'm curious when we could talk about it another time, but the presentations that he does twice a week, I think, are clearly really powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a guy that's doing 30 to 60 applications a month. I don't
Mhm.
know if you know that, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's just absolutely incredible. So yeah, I think that's one of the exciting things about being with a company that's doing so well is you get to see results that you don't see everywhere else. So
Yeah.
it's the whole, you could be a big fish in a small pond, or you could be in an ocean. And I think ultimately it's great to see not everyone wants to be a $300 million producer or be the top 1% in whatever they do. And I'm not saying that, but to be able to know that it's possible, it
Mhm.
just goes to show you that you're, even at your level, you're that much more likely to achieve the top tier of your whatever. If you want to be average, you'll be at the top, the best place that an average person can be at a company like this. The same way when you look at the top 1%. So what you can achieve here is really awesome. There's a lot of support and there's a lot of discretion around how you run your business, and he's got the right equation, no doubt.
Yeah, the sky's the limit there. I'm absolutely convinced of it, and the biggest part of it for me is sort of where the rubber meets the road, right? In terms of
Mhm.
what sort of support they have, in terms of what sort of systems they have in place, what they can get done, and then how it equates to how it benefits the borrower and also how it benefits the agent. Because one of the things that they do in terms of how they operate is they're so unbelievably aggressive that the agents that work with them, the agents that are representing buyers, okay, that work with them have a competitive advantage in terms of getting their approvals done. Scott's really, really good at working with listing agents and consulting with them on this is what I have, this is what the borrower looks like, this is where we are, that kind of thing. And it's one of those things that because of the presentation that he does, people know him, right? The presentations that he does, people know him because he does and the thing that he does is he brings value to the real estate professional and to the borrower simultaneously, right?
Mhm.
And that's what his focus is. So when he's doing these presentations, he's not doing these presentations going, look at me, look how wonderful I am.
Look at
He's
my products,
well,
my
no, he's literally
programs.
walking in and going, this is how what we do can benefit you, right?
Yeah,
And
yep,
this is how we
100%.
can help you to take whatever it is you're looking to do to the next level.
Mhm.
And that's important to me because everywhere I go, I try to add value, as I'm sure you've experienced today, right? Everywhere I
Sure.
go, I try to add value. And I love the fact that he's the same way. I really, really do.
Mhm.
And a part of that is the support that he gets from cross country. So I know that's a big, big deal.
Completely
So
agree.
so talk to us about your podcast. When was it that you started your podcast and what made you decide to do it?
Well, so yeah, that's I always joke around and say when I was with Wells for 13 years, I was on mute. That's what I like to say because you could only promote so much. And even at Wells, I was like the person that, wow, look how great she's doing on social media. And I was posting like a picture or something. I was just I knew the relevance of social always, but I knew the restrictions I had on my career at Wells. And I also for quite some time was just leading the team, managing the team, and recruiting. I wasn't producing, so I didn't necessarily have to promote as much at the time. But when I decided to make a change, I really wanted to go all in on social. I wanted to make sure that it was one of the biggest focuses in a market where income for most people was down about 50 to 70%.
Mhm.
I made a decision to double down on myself and my business, and so made substantial investments in studios and editing and social media marketing. Um, it's interesting. I mention that because I see a lot of people that aren't investing in themselves at
Mhm.
the way that I think they should, and the return is there if you're doubling down on something. Invest in yourself, I guess, is the short end of the story. But I decided, what format's going to work for me. Do I want to do videos? Do I want to do like what resonates with me? I went to college for communications. I
Mhm.
originally wanted to be on radio or TV. It was always like exciting for me. I did an internship at a radio station in college. And I was like, man, this looks like fun. You just get to go on the radio, you get to talk, you interview people, you play some music, whatever, and talk about the current news, events, and then like I saw that the host would take a break. There was the famous kind of radio Dennis and Judy on 101.5 in New Jersey. They were just they had a great show. And I saw their breaks in between their sessions and when they were live. And I'm like, they're just like hanging out. Like this looks amazing. They're just having fun and working, doing what they love. And I really was interested in that. So it's funny kind of how it comes full circle and how I decided that the best format for me would be a podcast. And I thought it wasn't very, it's self-motivating in a lot of ways. Obviously, there's clear benefit in hosting a podcast. And 1 billion people listen to podcasts every single day. It's a long game, right? The longer it's like anything else, you got to have patience. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna hate episodes. You're gonna not like what you said, how you looked, whatever the case may be. But I had to back to the beginning. Start before you're ready. I
Mhm.
totally started before I was ready. I committed. I signed up with a studio. I paid. I got under contract. I'm like, okay, shit. I guess now I have to do this, right? There's no other choice. So I just started getting people I know on to share their story. It started kind of really grassroots. And then it started expanding, and got some great people on that were celebrities at HDTV and Netflix shows, and and A&E. I had amazing guy on who's a real estate investor talking about his story was just insane. I'll have to send you the episode, but that's how I chose the format. I chose what worked for me best, and I always say that I think people should choose what works for them best. Like you might be extremely funny, and maybe you've never like shown that side of yourself, and you want to just tell jokes and make people laugh. And that's I met a guy that actually the biggest thing that he did was he created a YouTube channel, and his podcast was all about dating, the worst stories you could ever think about in dating. And that's what he grew, like he blew up. He made millions of people wanted to listen to these crazy stories about how people broke up and what happened. And then it was like, oh, by the way, I'm a realtor. And I
Mhm.
think the reality is that I started to realize, like, isn't that very similar to how kind of natural conversations have? Like, I'm sure that janitor that you worked late nights with, you just kind of were like, hey, where do you live? You have kids? Like, you just talked about whatever. What do you do for fun? You weren't
Yeah.
like, hey, let me tell you about mortgages and everything that we do. So it's kind of the same natural thing that happens in this world is we should let people see kind of a side of us that we want to show that might have nothing to do with what we do for a living, and then sprinkle in the rest. And I've absolutely loved doing it. It's you got to stay consistent. You got to try to line up your guests. There's a lot of work that goes into it. But ultimately, if I'm in the studio for, you know, 2 times a month, 3 times a month recording, that could make, 60, 70 clips for me. And I'm good for
Mhm.
the next, 30 to 60 days with a ton of content. Hopefully that's valuable. And some resonates, some doesn't. I sometimes I have no idea why one clip does so great and the other one does, like, just mind-boggling. I have no
Yeah.
clue, but I'm doing it. I'm going to keep doing it, and it might evolve. Maybe one day it's about something totally different. Nothing ever has to be permanent, but I think listening to podcasts for your listeners is such a great way to learn and network. It's like you almost have these group of, you talk about mentors and people that can influence you. I went down to, I'll just share this with you because I thought it was really cool. It's kind of like the first moment I have where I was like, wow, this actually is doing something. I was down in South Beach for spring break. We're with the kids. We stayed at a hotel. We're in the out by the pool. We're like signing the check. We just had lunch and everything. And the waiter was like, hey, he's like, do you have a YouTube channel? And I was like, stop. Like, that's crazy. He was like, yeah, I listen to your stuff. I'm really trying to like get better financially and do things different. And I really like, your show is about. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, we walked away. I was like, can you believe that someone down, even if it's 500 people that watch your episode or listen to
Mhm.
it, it's 500 people that get to listen to this conversation instead of just me and you. We could have met for coffee. We're both in California.
Yeah.
Just had like our own little individual conversation, got to know each other. But now this will be out there for everyone to see. So to me, I think everyone should have a podcast. I think every amazing conversation you have today should be recorded and shared. And I think it will influence someone. And if there's one person out there that your show resonates with, there's another 1,000 people out
Mhm.
there that will also resonate with. And so it was just kind of one of those reminders that, like, hey, I need to remember, despite the views, the likes, the follows, the subscriptions, how I feel about it at times. Is it worth it? Is it not? There's somebody, like, just that one person that might listen that got something from this. And that's why I'm in it. That's why I do it. It's great. It's great branding. It's great cross promoting. Obviously, there's a lot of good benefits that come from that. But ultimately, it's about helping people reach their full potential and learn from others. And I think it's very powerful. That's what I like to do. And I feel like I'm the front row student in the chair getting to ask all these questions to great people. So it's been a lot of fun.
So I totally agree. By the way, it's some of the
Mhm.
most fun I have. So how long have you been podcasting?
It's going on almost 2 years. Almost 2 years.
Me
Like
too.
maybe 40 something episodes, I think, that I've done so far. So it's been
We've
interesting.
we've done 346.
In 2 years?
Less than 2 years. We'll be 2 in
Holy shit.
August 15th. August 15th
How
will
how
be.
what's your recording? What do you do, one a day? What are you
Well, it
doing?
depends. It sometimes we do 2 a day. I mean, it depends. So, I did 50 in February of 2024. I did 50 in the month of February. I
Wow.
don't remember the month of February.
It was a blur. Oh my
Right?
gosh, that's
So, well, we
incredible.
were in January, the month before, we were approached by
Mhm.
over 400 people that wanted to be on the podcast. And we went from me chasing everybody to being chased. It was crazy. So, yeah, it
Well, I
was
gotta
one of
I
those.
gotta I gotta interview you now,
It
and
was one of
because I
those.
got a lot of questions to ask now.
Yeah, I'm happy to
That's
I'm happy to I'm happy to help in any way I can.
But that's incredible. Like for me, that's like a lesson on, sometimes it's like be patient, but other times it's like if you can condense that, like if
Yeah,
I could have done 200 instead of 40, how much
yeah,
further along would the podcast have been?
yeah.
Um, that's really interesting. And congratulations, because
Thank you.
that's exciting and
So
that's what it's there for.
let me ask you something, because
Mhm.
I know what my answer, but let me ask you this. When that person recognized you, how did that make you feel?
I felt validation. I
Yeah,
felt validated that like it's working.
yeah.
It's working. It's, and even when if I post a podcast and it's a hundred people that listen, now I'm always like thinking about that guy. Like, who are you? Who are you out there that's actually listening? And what are you getting from it? So I try to remind people, hey, comment, share this episode, let us know what you
Mhm,
want to hear, let us know what you think. And you kind of learn all these things by watching, people like yourself that are the more you do something, the better you're gonna get at it. Like I think
mhm,
about I have so many people now that tell me like, "Hey, I know I got to do video, but I just, it's been 2 years now. We've been able to do video. We all came here together. Let's do it. What are you waiting for?" I
mhm,
hated my first few videos too, but they're like, "I know I got to do it, but I haven't done it yet." And it's back to that like kind of start before you're ready thing again.
mhm,
It's one of those things where you were never comfortable with the first phone call you made, the first cold call, the first office presentation. Now you do it, it's like it's easy. So,
mhm.
what may be hard today will be easy tomorrow if you just keep at it. And but that's the exciting part is you're always learning. There's always something else to understand about it. I think if you have that mindset where you really enjoy learning, doing anything new is fun
Yeah.
because it is like I just watched you break for a commercial. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. I I've been on a bunch of podcasts, never saw anyone break for a commercial. I'm like, maybe I need to break for a commercial. And you think about sponsorships and just
Mhm.
how are you attracting people? I have 100 questions for you. So now now I'm not going to take over your podcast, but well, you may have to come on mine if you make, do
I'd
guest
love to.
appearances as well?
Yeah, I'd
Good.
love to.
Okay.
I'd love to. In fact, that's
Great.
one of the things that I'm doing now that I hadn't been doing before. Like I'd been so
Mhm.
busy doing what I was doing in terms of
Mhm.
interviews and all that kind of stuff, obviously, right? I wasn't making time to be on other people's podcasts. And so I'm now doing that. And it's a real focus for me because I want to give back and I want to add value. And the
Mhm.
cool thing is when somebody walks up and goes, "Why do you look familiar to me?" You know what I mean? And
Yes.
you're like, "I don't know."
Uh,
Right? You know, I have no
I'm
idea,
kind of a
right?
big deal. I have a
Right? And
podcast.
they're like, your voice, there's right?
Wow.
And it's like, and all of a sudden you're like, and then they put it together and it's crazy. So,
It's amazing.
and it really is a feeling of validation because it's, people will share with you and I'll always ask them, I'm like, what can we do better? What is
Mm,
it that we could do better for you? You know what I mean?
love that.
And
Great question.
but it's one of those things that I want to know. I want to know how I can take this to the next level. And by the way, the whole thing with the commercials and the sponsorships and all that, that's all about taking this to the next level.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
what
yep.
we're specifically doing is we're working right now to monetize the podcast, and we're in the process of basically taking this to a whole nother level that we've never seen before with this particular program. So we're super, super excited about it. One thing I wanted
Yeah.
to mention,
Mm,
one of the or the top investor in the world is a guy by the name of Warren Buffett. And he
mhm.
literally says the single greatest investment you'll ever make is the one you make in yourself.
Amen.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just want people to understand that if they're thinking about doing this or they're thinking about doing that. My son called me the other day and he was not sure about this particular thing he was going to do. And I just asked him, I said, "What investment are you going to make with that money
Mhm.
that's going to pay you that kind of dividend, that kind of return?" And he thought about it for a second. He goes, "Dad, you're right." I said, "No, I'm not right. Warren Buffett's right. But here's the thing. Think about it in terms of what exactly are you going to get as a return on that
Mhm.
money you're investing in yourself versus some other investment." Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the money you invested in this, and you know this, the money you invested in yourself has come back big time. Every
Yeah.
time you invest in yourself, and it doesn't matter what the number is, but every time you do that,
Mhm.
if you sit back for a second and think about what the return is, it's
Mhm.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah.
unbelievable. So that's the thing that I want
Totally
people
agree.
to take away from this. So,
Totally agree. And it's I'm thinking as you're talking, like statistically, how many people actually do really invest in themselves outside of a lunch or an event or something like that, that they take, how many people are really doubling down on marketing in any capacity? I think it's limited. And I think there's a major, point we're missing there. And I think we invest in so many other things, right? Like our gym memberships, our cars, our
mhm,
nights out. I mean, if you'd be surprised what a little bit of investment in yourself can actually
mhm,
do, and especially if you stay with it. You don't see the returns day one, right? But the fact that that I think that's what it takes is that kind of relentless belief, and sometimes it's natural. You'll feel doubt, like
mhm,
I don't know, I'm not seeing the results say, is this doing anything? Like you start questioning, is it
mhm.
working? Is it worth it? It's a lot of time, effort, energy, money, right? To do something like this. But if you stick with it, I think ultimately anything with good intention, with consistency, it will compound. And obviously you're a pure like evidence of it right here in the podcast world. So that's
Well,
amazing. Congratulations to you.
thank you. But what you learn is what's most important, right? It's who you
That too.
become.
It's an education. Yep.
Absolutely. And then your
Hmm.
opportunity to give back, right? Your opportunity to help other people, right? Mentor, that kind of thing, coach, whatever it is. So
Yeah. Yep.
that's a big deal. Okay, before we broke for the commercial, we were talking about AI tools that people are using to increase their production, help with sales, that kind of thing. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I think in general, I think, now with AI, like we were talking about change before,
Mhm.
change fast, we now need to do it even faster now.
Yeah.
So, like, welcome to the world of AI. Things are going to progressively move at a rate that we are so not used to. And so, like on the onset, in the world we're in today, just get ready for quick change and start to get ready if to change faster. And I think that, when it comes to, and this is just what I see of most people, they know there's something out there, there's a tool, it's great, it can be used, but I'm not using it, or
Mhm.
I'm using it a little bit. And people just don't realize like how much they're leaving on the table by not making a little bit of time to understand these things and get to know them. And like, okay, something new's out, I need to figure it out. Give me the Cliff Notes version of it. And so what I've been doing is trying to learn myself as often as I can and spend time and research and energy trying to consolidate like what are some of the great apps that we could be using today that can help. I think the Chat GPT, which everyone's like heard of, that's the
Mhm.
one that I think most people are utilizing, but significantly underutilizing it. And its capability. I mean, you have the ability to tell ChatGPT exactly what you want and expect from it, the role you want it to play, everything there is to know about you, your background, your business, your podcast, whatever it is that you do today. And explain to them, here's what I want you to be. I want you to be like my executive assistant, or I want you to be my marketing agency. I need you to think like a marketer. I want to know everything that Mike is doing for his podcast, and I want to replicate. I want you to look at his social media, look at his website. I want everything to say, make me a landing page,
Mhm.
create me a flyer, make me a website, script out a whole presentation for me. It's just incredible. So some of the tools that I think are really great, people in sales, obviously ChatGPT can do so much more. So dig in deeper, start telling it how you want to use it, start asking it for things that like in your head you wouldn't even think it could do. And I think you'll find like sometimes I'll ask it to do one thing at a time. Like, hey, make me this. You know what? Okay, make me that. And then I'm like, you know what? This thing is smart enough that I could say, hey, here's what I'm doing. I need you to create me an entire series, an entire marketing strategy, A through Z, reminders, this, that, anything I need, like as if you're speaking to a marketing agency.
Mhm.
This is the whole thing I need, and it will go all the way A through Z for you. Absolutely incredible. So dig in deeper on how to use that, use it more. Were you going to say something about ChatGPT?
Well, just I would go to some trainings, right? Go
Yeah.
immerse yourself in some seminars and learn from the experts, right?
Hmm.
Go figure out what's available, and how it could potentially apply to you. So
Hmm.
I interviewed a gentleman for our podcast, what, 3 or 4 months ago. And one of the questions that I had for him was, It's because they're literally a marketing agency for online marketing agency for
Mhm.
businesses, corporations, right? And this guy is big, big in the world. I'm not joking. And I asked him, I said, so what should a company do right now? And this is 4 months ago, but what should a company do right now to try to make sure that they're prepared for this AI revolution? He said what they should do is take one person that works full time for the company, and all they do for the next year full time is look at how AI can help their business, how AI
Mhm.
technology can apply to their company. And I said,
Mhm.
what happens if they don't do that? He said, they're going to be completely out of business in a year. That's 4 months
Yeah,
ago. Okay.
I don't
The
doubt
fact
it.
of the matter is this: AI is here, it's coming, it's basically running us over. We've got track marks on our backs, okay? And we need to get to a place to where we catch up to it. And so people need to go, like we talked about, they need to go invest in themselves and they need to go get some training. In fact, they need to go get a lot of training and get
Mhm.
up to speed on how AI can help them with their business. It's a big, big,
Yeah, and that's back to investing in yourself,
yeah.
whether it be a coaching or a live event. And every time I talk about this, it's like you're just reminded of how to do more of it. Any kind
Mhm.
of event that you've ever gone to or seminar, you take so much away from it. The
Yeah.
energy, the attitudes, the experience of other people, like that's the best thing. Other people's experience,
Mhm.
OPE, that's how you want to learn things. And so we've been doing a Saturday live every Saturday. It's called Coffee and Closers. And it's either, we cover a different topic for 30 minutes on sales, marketing, or mindset, quite frankly, because those kind of, to me, they all play together.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, last week we did one just all about AI, kind of condensing, and I appreciate the Cliff Notes version of anything. Give me the
Mhm.
summary, give me the quick hits I need to take away. And so that's pretty much what we did. Obviously, I have a coaching company. When I left Wells, I decided that, why I knew so many bankers. I have a passion for helping people. Leadership resonates with me. Maybe a little bit more internally than like just producing and helping somebody get a mortgage. Obviously, that's very rewarding too. But I love watching people take their business from here to here.
Mhm.
And so coaching, I was like, you know what, why not? If I have the ability to, why not extend the opportunity to coach certain people that are in any business. If I've started a business and successfully grown it, I can teach people how to do that. If I've,
Mhm.
whether that be a loan officer or a construction company, it's all transcendent. All these skills, the same skills it takes to run a podcast successfully, it takes to run a restaurant successfully, just different elements. And so ultimately, I think it transcends. And so I didn't really pick a specific sector. I have people I coach that are doing all kinds of things. So it's been really exciting to do that, and I just love helping. Look, I'm waking up at 6:30 in the morning to do a 9:30 a.m. live for people. Most of the people are on the East Coast, and it's been a ton of fun. So AI was a great topic to cover. I would say definitely dig in deeper. There's a lot to learn there, and it's just amazing to me. We're not really that. We're not, like you said, we're not caught up to it. We don't even really understand how it could really help us yet. And there's the person behind it all. Like we're the prompter, right? So
Mhm.
so I had this moment to myself where I noticed that some people don't use it well because they're really not effective delegators.
Mhm.
And so ultimately, like if you have trouble delegating or like training someone to do something, you might have trouble trying to use this technology. And so
Mhm.
that's probably the first thing you should work on is what are the
Overcome
things?
that hurdle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Get
then dig
somebody to
in.
help you with it.
Yep.
So you are in the construction business. Can you take just a second and talk about number one, why you chose to get into the business? And number two, what's the single most important thing you've learned owning the business?
Sure. I think that as time, when I first started in the mortgage industry, I was like, there was always that jack of trades, master of none analogy that stood out to me, and I was so committed to mortgages that, and I still think, looking back, I do think that you got to get one thing really working well for you, one thing that you've mastered, and then once you get to that point where it has, hopefully you're making a great living, and now you have this ability to say, okay, well, what am I going to do? Am I just going to take my
Mhm.
money, throw it in 401ks in the stock market or buy real estate? Or, am I going to invest in something is way more tangible, something that I can control?
Right.
And I always say winners lose more than losers lose. And
Mhm.
so I'm not scared of losing. I'm still a winner if I lose. I'm
Mhm.
not scared of failing. And I think that was kind of the first thing that kind of gets me to the point of be getting ready to do something like this. And so opportunity presented itself. I knew someone that had been doing construction for 30 years, running a very small business. It really was just him doing construction, and you would find him because somebody was really happy with him. And who did you use to do that? And I call
Mhm.
my guy. We turned it into a real company. We closed his entity. We started. Here's the logo right here, New Jersey Construction. We're a general contractor, and we really got into the business to be. I saw a window of opportunity to actually be a reliable, trustworthy, communicative, yeah, construction company. They don't.
Mhm.
There's not many of them out there, believe it or not. They don't
That's
answer their
true.
phones. They don't get back to you. They don't show up on time. They don't tell you when they're not going to be there. They overpromise and underdeliver, and it's hard to find somebody that's quality. So almost 75-star reviews on Google. We're 3 years in business. We took it to a seven-figure company in the first 2 years. Really proud of that. We support two Navy bases in New Jersey as their GC. We have a contract with them for 5 years, and we work with a lot of homeowners. We do everything construction, and so it's just been an exciting journey. Back to like learning something.
Mhm.
I love the process of learning and growing, this it's really been the same fundamental tools that I
Mhm.
used in the mortgage business that I just moved over to sales and marketing and organization and process procedure. Once we had all those things in play, we had like a real company now.
Mhm.
Now we had a company that could really operate. And so it's been a great journey. Love my partner. You got to get in business with the right people. But I've also think one of the standout moments for me was that you go a lot further together than you do apart.
Mhm.
And so I'd say start teaming with people sooner rather than later. If you see someone has a strength and you have a strength, like combine them, those two things together where you're weak and someone else is strong. Trust in that process, try to do it with the right people. And then when you get to the right point in life, diversify. I think we're in a
Mhm.
world where we need to. I don't know what AI is going to do in the future. I do think that there will be a lot of jobs that are compromised throughout that time. I think that insulating yourself. I kind of look at yourself as an investment. If you were
Mhm.
$1 million, right? Would you put it all in one stock, or would you put it in a few different stocks?
Right.
And so that's kind of how I view myself. And where are you going to invest that time? Only on one thing or on a couple others? So I mean, look, that was evenings, weekends, late nights, help from my partner, like all in, not making a lot of money from it, but working on growing it, believing it, and being consistent. So it's been a great journey, and we're really happy. Thanks for asking. I wore my sweatshirt on purpose today. So
That's awesome.
for all the
So
business we're doing out here in California.
I have a couple of final questions, and we're going to wrap this up because you and I could talk for a week. No joke.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So real quick, you just mentioned something about losing and winning. And you said something about you win. I forget what it was exactly that you said, but you
Mhm.
win more from losing and that kind of thing.
Winners lose more than losers lose.
Right.
Yeah.
Winners lose more than losers lose. Okay. Can you explain that for people that don't understand what it is that you just said?
Yeah. Yeah, that I say this to kids. So back to the whole
Mhm.
kid kind of analogy with life and business, but yeah, the more you lose, the more you fail, the closer you're getting to success. And there's so many stories throughout history of like the Thomas Edisons or the Dysons, or I'm sure some of the people that you've interviewed
Mhm.
that and Mark Cuban says it in a way like really resonates with me. You only have to be right one time,
Mhm.
just one time. You could be wrong 50 times, but you just have to be right one time. So the way I look at it, like as the example, if New Jersey construction didn't work out and it failed, I don't look at that as a personal failure. I don't
Mhm.
take it as like a defeat. I take it as a lesson. It's data. There's a
Mhm.
reason why it didn't work. And so now how do I learn from that and grow? And I think that's the lesson that we see through so many people that are really successful and have achieved, just unimaginable results in their life. The Jeff Bezos and the Bill Gates of the world, and
Mhm.
your client you were talking about, the CEO. I'm sure there's been so much failure. So many sports athletes that have failed and been rejected and denied. We always talk about J.K. Rowling with her book. That
Mhm.
she went to 13 publishers before a publisher said yes. Like, imagine if she gave up on 5, or 4 or 10. I mean, it's just, the more no's you get, the closer you're getting to a yes. And so embrace failure as a learning experience, and don't be scared of it. We only get one life to live, and hopefully the failure isn't going to cost you too much. Obviously,
Mhm.
that's you have to take that into consideration. But I think fail, and fail fast if you can, and just keep it moving, learn from it, and move on. So winners lose more than losers lose. That's what I tell the kids now all the time.
I love it. So thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
So we interviewed the Guinness Book of World Records record holder for the single greatest selling nonfiction author in the world.
Wow.
Okay. He sold over 600 million books that he's written.
Wow.
Okay. Do you
Almost
know
that.
that when he wrote his first book, he and his partner, they were turned down by 144 publishing companies?
Wow. That's insane.
You've heard of this book, I'll bet you. It's called Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Oh yeah. I remember having the big ones in my house growing up. Wow, that's
144 publishers. Now, what would have happened if they'd have stopped at 130, 143, or stopped at 144
mhm.
and
Mhm.
not talked to 145,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah, and it's so often people will look at that end result of, wow, like, it's chicken soup for the teenage soul, or it's Mike. Mike's made for a podcast. He's great at it. Like, he's a natural. It's not. That's not what it is. It's the decision to keep pushing through, to learn, and to not take failure personal, to keep going. And that's really what it is. I think everything else is kind of like just an excuse. It's very easy to to look at someone and say, oh, well, they're just great at writing, or they're good at being on camera, and they have something. No, it takes grit, it takes practice, it takes consistency. You get better as you go. You're starting before you're ready. You're moving rejection and failure to the side. You're continuing on. I always think of the Dyson story, the bagless vacuum
Mhm.
cleaner. He made like 5,000 different prototypes before he got it right. Like, failed at making this thing 5,000 times before he got it right. The guy's a billionaire. Even when he got it right, nobody wanted to purchase the patent and take it from him. So he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it myself. Even up to that point, he could have been like, you know what, I spent all this time, nobody wants it, wasted my time. What did I do here? But then he said, you know what, I'm gonna double down even more. I'm gonna do it myself. And today he's a billionaire, and it's all about not giving up. So yeah, embrace failure. And I love that story. I love those stories. Those are the greatest things about interviewing people on podcasts, is that reminder right there,
Yeah.
so
And it's what you learn from it. The life
mhm.
story thing, I totally dig it. I know you can't tell because I hide it well, but I totally dig it.
I
One
could see
last
that.
thing, one last
Sure.
thing that I'll share with you. We had John Paul DeJoria on the program. We interviewed him, and I told you about his childhood, right?
Hmm.
He started a tequila company like 20 years ago, and he was sitting at a restaurant in Los Angeles, and he
Hmm.
was he was getting drunk. He was doing tequila shots, Cuervo tequila shots, with
Hmm.
with a supplier in out of Mexico, alcohol supplier out of Mexico. And he said, we need to start a tequila company that's smooth, because they were chasing it with salt and lime and all that kind of stuff, right?
Hmm.
We need a
Hmm.
smooth tequila. And guys like, I got the people. We can start tomorrow. The thing is, it's going to cost 4 times what this costs,
Hmm.
4 times per bottle, right?
Wow, wow,
And
wow.
so they went out and designed an
Mm.
artisan bottle, and they started this tequila company. And the number one distributor in the world, alcohol distributor in the world, said the most because it's 4 times the cost per bottle, the most you'll ever sell, most cases you'll ever sell per year of this tequila is 10,000 cases. So they fired him. They went to the number two distributor. Number two distributor said the most you'll ever sell is 20,000 cases per year of this tequila. Now, 2 years ago, they sold the company for $8 billion, a tequila company. You want to take a guess as to how many cases per year they were selling when they sold the company 2 years ago?
Tens of millions, I would imagine.
1,350,000 cases a year.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. That is incredible.
Is that
That
insane?
goes that goes to show you, you have to believe in it more than everyone around you,
Yeah.
because you'll be discouraged. You will be discouraged. Yeah, I remember when I started the business. I'm obviously not, those stories are just incredibly inspiring. But when you think about thought about going into business, I remember my family like, partnerships really, they're tough. They don't really work. There's a lot of construction companies. I'm like, oh, sometimes you don't even
Mhm.
want to talk to people because they will discourage you. And so
Yeah.
I like how he was like, bye, just
Yeah.
fires them, like, get out of the way. Then if you don't see it, we'll keep it moving.
What's fascinating is they're trying to protect you. They're trying to protect
Yes.
you. They're trying to do what
Yep.
they think is in your best interest. And it's
Right.
like,
Right.
just stop, right?
Yep. Yep.
One last question.
hmm
What do you want your legacy to be?
I think generally speaking, I'd like to make sure that I leave behind something, generational for my family. I would love to leave a business that's mine behind, something that could give them a great head start in their own life. And I think New Jersey construction has that ability to do that. I want people to think of me as someone that, encourages, inspires people, is generous, giving, hardworking, ambitious.
Mhm.
I think those are the things that, hopefully, I'll be defined as. And I think, I think what really lives on and like in people is it's especially your family. It's the love you give, right? It's
Mhm.
it's it's that mark that you leave on them, the care that you give them, that selflessness that you have. And I had some incredible years in my career that they always say, like, there's this saying, like, the better you do, like, it kind of shows like your kind of your true colors, like who are you really? And I just think, giving is so much more rewarding than receiving. But one of my biggest reasons to do anything in life, and my ambition and my motivation is to really help others and help people I love the most in my life, and anyone else that needs it, quite frankly. Because if I could be there for someone and I could help them, I'm just the person that's going to do it. So hopefully that'll be my legacy. And look, the more I can obtain, I think the greater that legacy will be.
Awesome. Okay. New Jersey Construction. You have a coaching company. What's the name of the coaching company?
MVP Sales Academy.
Okay. And Cross Country Mortgage. If somebody wants to get
Mhm.
in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you? What's the easiest way?
Yeah, so at Billion Dollar Banker on Instagram. Follow me there, reach out. I'm happy to connect. Would love to meet you, get to know you, and if there's anything I can help you with, I'm obviously here as well.
And I did that, by the way. I did send you, I'm following you on Instagram.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Appreciate
Nicole
that.
Perrone, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been amazing.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Can I ask you a question? Did you know that there's a technology that uses sound waves that'll tell your brain what to do? There literally is. It's called newcalm.com. It can tell your brain to heal, tell your brain to sleep, tell your brain to do all kinds of things. It can get you fired up. It can be a pre-workout. Newcalm.com. And the promo code is Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.